Part 69. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 686. Luo Shen and Lu Shengguo stood outside the exit. Han Qian didn't know when Luo Shen came back, and he didn't know how Lu Shengguo knew he was coming to the capital. Han Qian whistled at Lu Shengguo. Xiao Wu. Lu Shengguo turned around and walked towards Han Qian. He took out a lollipop in his hand like a magic trick and handed it to Xiao Baibei, smiling. "Welcome Mr. Han to Beijing again." Han Qian chuckled. "Your brother and I are about to fall out and kill each other. Why don't you bear any grudge against me?" Lu Shengguo smiled. "You two are your business, and you and I are between us. This time Go De Peo died in your hands, which relieved the hatred in my heart. No matter whether my brother wins or loses, you, Han Qian, come to me. Lu Shengguo helps me, and I won't even frown. Let's go. Get in the car. The Luo family's motorcade is also here, and I'm curious why you don't drive here." Han Qian raised his left hand and Lu Shengguo shrugged. At this time, Guan Yunbiao and Suliang also came over. Suliang shook hands with Lu Shengguo, who smiled. "I know you, Mr. Suliang, right? The man in the red suit is naturally the Guanggo of Binhai District 8. Welcome to the capital. I only welcome you personally, and the hotel has been booked." I always felt that something was wrong with Lu Shengguo's enthusiasm. The three men got into the Lu family's car. Xiao Baibei was also picked up by Ji Jing, and they followed Luo Shen. But there is another woman beside Han Qian. Yates. At this moment, Han Qian discovered that she had also come to the capital. Yates was sitting in the passenger seat, and Han Qian and Lu Shengguo were sitting in the back. Lu Shengguo handed Han Qian a cigarette and said softly, "Sister Yezi has become more beautiful, and her makeup is different from before. She used to be so cold and glamorous that people didn't dare to approach her. Now she has more of a happy and feminine look. Sure enough, the women who left my brother have become normal." Yates looked forward and replied calmly, "Thank you for the compliment, second young master. Please take me home first, second young master, and then send Mr. Han to the hotel." Lu Shengguo whispered. "You two have a relationship where you still need to sleep separately." After saying this, Yates turned to glare at Lu Shengguo and said angrily, "Second young master, please watch your words." Lu Shengguo was a typical shameless person. He leaned forward and stretched out his two hands, gave a thumbs up and whispered, "Sister Yezi, you and Han Qian, cough. They are both adults, so hurry up." Yates blushed like a monkey's butt, snorted and turned his head away from young master Lu. Han Qian couldn't help laughing. "Xiao Wu, you were tortured quite badly by your brother, right? He has schizophrenia, but you don't, right? Don't worry. I'm normal. My brother's schizophrenia is due to the death of my sister-in-law. He hasn't told you about my brother, right? I guess Sister Ye doesn't know either. Can I tell you? Aren't you afraid that your brother will beat you? You're used to it. My sister-in-law is a very ordinary woman. To put it bluntly, she comes from a very low background. She is the daughter of my nanny. Don't think nonsense. My sister-in-law's parents are here. I work at home, and she has played with my brother since childhood, and she is my brother's only friend in his life." Yates also pricked up her ears when this matter was mentioned. She had never seen Lu Shengguo forget his wife, and she had never even heard Lu Shengguo mention it. She had doubted it before, even if Lu Shengguo was an eunuch, Jing Chen wanted to marry him. There are many women, including female celebrities, wealthy daughters, etc., but Lu Shengguo is very repulsive to them and is not even willing to talk about them. Xiao Wu lit the cigarette, narrowed her eyes and smiled. It was very difficult for the two of them to be together. My old man definitely disagreed. He sent the family away when he was in high school, ha. He sent them to Yunnan. Since then, my brother has not said a word to my old man. We didn't even eat at the same table, but no one thought that due to some natural disasters, my family would have to donate money and materials. My brother went to Shu with materials and money, and my sister-in-law taught in Shu after working, ha. It's a ridiculous plot that they have met each other. How many years have passed? A teacher who supports education and a family heir worth more than 1 billion can still know each other, but the most ridiculous thing is that this heir is still very innocent. Han Qian frowned and smiled. Aren't you afraid that Lu Shenga will beat you to death? Are you talking about him behind his back? Afraid? Han Qian, let me tell you something. My fear was taken away by my brother many years ago. Maybe you will never see such a scene in your life. After that, my brother and my sister-in-law went to Binhai. At that time, he had a very good relationship with Jian Huan. Jian Huan also came to my house, but why did he suddenly have a quarrel and kill him? This seems to have something to do with my sister-in-law. I heard my brother nagging that someone was humiliated at a party. He married my sister-in-law and mocked her background. Later, this person was bailed out by Jian Huan. It seems that this matter caused a quarrel between the two of them. I don't know the details. Han Qian shrugged and smiled. A member of the Lin family. I don't know, but there are indeed shadows of the Lin family in this. Everyone said that Jian Huan's death was suicide. My brother and I didn't believe it. Brother Jian. You have a proud character. My brother also said that you look like Jian Huan. Let me ask you a question. If I disabled you, would you kill me first and then commit suicide, or would you just want to die? Han Qian frowned. The enemy is still at large, how can I die? Besides, I have to live no matter what, and I have to live for the sake of the people around me. My character may kill my enemy, but I won't die. Lu Shengyu slapped her thigh and said loudly. Yes. This is what a normal man thinks, right? But he fell down the stairs and died. His death was very strange. After that, I consulted many people at home and abroad, and I also learned a lot about Jian Huan. People, they were very strange about Jian Huan's death. I asked my brother, but he didn't say anything. Not long after, my brother and my sister-in-law had a car accident. My sister-in-law died on the spot, and my brother was a very innocent little boy who voluntarily gave up the treatment of his lower body, right? After listening to Lu Shenga's nagging, Han Qian felt more and more that what happened in Binhai City in the previous generation was not just a fight between Qianling and Lu Shenga, but there was also something that Han Qian had been curious about for a long time. Since Lu Shenga is the murderer of Jian Huan, he is the hatred of Qianling for killing his son, and in turn Qianling is the hatred of killing his wife. But these two people are still supporting the honor group. For what? I'm just curious, how can Lu Shenga's bastard character just watch his wife killing enemy wandering around right under his nose? Moreover, Qianling deliberately stuffed Qianwan in to disgust Lu Shenga. This guy didn't care and didn't do anything, so he just ran away? Han Qian's mind was full of doubts. At this time, the car stopped. Yates opened the door and got out of the car. Han Qian thought about it and opened the door. I'm not going to the hotel, I'm going to Yates' house. Remember to cover for me. Lu Shengyu curled her lips and waved her hand. Anan is still waiting for you. Go ahead, go ahead. When will you return to Binhai? I'll probably play for a few days before going back. There's a lot of time. Then I feel relieved. Do you want my brother to come back? Whatever, I'm a little confused right now. I'll see him in 2 days. After saying that, he turned around and chased Yates. Yates was walking very fast. Han Qian trotted to catch up, walking closely behind him. However, Yates stopped and looked at Han Qian with a frown. Han Qian took out his cigarette and lit it, looking behind him. The unit door doesn't speak either. When Yates left, he followed. Even if Yates stopped, he would not leave. Yates exploded. "Mr. Han, what are you doing?" Han Qian frowned while holding a cigarette in his mouth. "I'm very surprised. Did Yates found glory when you were following Lushenga? You should have followed him when he became an eunuch, right?" Yates sighed helplessly. "Brother. You have a holiday, can you give me a holiday too? I haven't even been home during the Mid-Autumn Festival, and I want to go home to see my parents now. Is there a red envelope if I go?" "No, no, get out." Another 3 rounds, Han Qian sighed and squatted on the ground. Yates walked forward angrily. This time Han Qian did not follow, until Yates disappeared at the unit door. Han Qian stood up and turned around and said lightly, "Auntie. It's not fun anymore. All the girls have left. You make me feel unnatural." After getting off the car and chasing Yeji into the community, Han Qian discovered that the ant behind him had been following them. When Yeji turned around, she even hid in the door of the unit. Han Qian didn't like such boisterous uncles and aunts. The ant approached Han Qian with vegetables in her hands and asked curiously, "Young man, what is your relationship with that little girl?" Han Qian was about to talk about having an underground affair, but then he remembered that this was the place where Yates' parents lived, so he couldn't talk nonsense, so he replied calmly with a cigarette in his mouth. "I'm her boss." "You don't look like that, young man. Your boss is a bit humble. He's not as strong as that little brat Lushenga." After saying this, Han Qian threw away the cigarette in his mouth, bowed and said loudly, "Hello, aunt, my name is Han Qian. I'm from Binhai, and I am indeed secretary yes boss now. She is managing my Yashai Pavilion Hotel and the secretary position. This time I came to the capital to relax, and she came home to see you." The aunt smiled, stretched out her hand and patted Han Qian on the shoulder. "Young man is quite smart. Now that you are here, let's go and sit at home." "Auntie. Yates won't let me go." "My family, what are you afraid of? Is the young man married? Divorced?" Yama was stunned for a moment, then smiled. "That little girl has some problems with her eyesight. The young man doesn't look like a good person, but I still feel he's not bad." "Auntie, you're absolutely right. I'll carry you the food, but you have to talk about Yates. How can you confront the boss every day? If nothing happens, I have to help her walk the dog and handle the work. There is a bow and arrow range in the backyard of the hotel. Now she doesn't let me play, auntie. I feel wronged, really wronged. Auntie, I'm hungry." Why did Yama find this young man so pleasing to her eyes? He had no airs, was smart, and was down to earth. The most important thing was that she felt that her daughter would really bully this young boss. Yates returned home. Their house was not big, with 2 bedrooms of more than 70 square meters. However, the price of this house in the capital was almost astronomical. It cost her exactly 1 year's salary to buy this house, every penny. Save. Yates changed his clothes and shouted to his father, who was sitting on the balcony playing with the birds. "Dad, where is my mother?" Father Ye turned his head and said coldly, "Go back to your mother when you get home. Am I not considered a human being as a father?" Yates was not angry either, and said lazily while lying on the sofa, "Dad, I'm hungry." "Daughter, I'm going to call your mother. It's useless for you to go to Dad about this, right? Before you go to your mother, let me ask you something. Didn't you bring someone with you when you came back this time? Tomorrow I will go to the zoo to catch 2 for you. Do you think raising birds is too small?" Yates was an only child and was typically spoiled to death. Father Yates gave up on the birds on the balcony, walked into the living room, squatted next to his daughter, and whispered, "Daughter, We are not young anymore. We just want to have a boyfriend. It doesn't matter whether we get married or not. How dangerous is it for you to be alone outside? The young man you were talking to 4 years ago recently came to look for you at home. As for you, I think you look good. Yates stretched out his hand to pinch his father's mouth and whispered. How about you two make do? Then can your mother allow it? Father Yes' face was full of grievances. Yeji simply lay on the sofa and looked at the roof, grabbing the melon seeds on the coffee table. The melon seed slices were thrown casually on the coffee table. Father Yes squatted aside and laughed. My Zai is so cool when it comes to eating melon seeds. Back off. Old minister, please retire. As soon as he finished speaking, the door was opened. Father Yes stood up and went to greet her at the door. When he looked at the young man carrying vegetables behind his wife, Father Ye was stunned, while Han Qian grinned. Hello, uncle. My name is Han Qian, I belong to Yates. Come on, come on, come on in. Why did Yates suddenly come back? What a surprise. How old is the young man this year? Is he married? Where does he work? Han Qian regretted it a little and said in a low voice. Yates and I are now. Han. Sir. You are still haunted? Hearing Yates's roar, Han Qian smiled and said with narrowed eyes. Hello, uncle, I am Yates's boyfriend. I am 26 years old and a white-collar worker in the company. Bang. Yates fell off the sofa. The monthly ticket is doubled, brothers, hit me. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 687. At the Ye family's dinner table, my daughter will definitely have a richer meal when she comes back, but Han Qian is a little uncomfortable with these dishes. Mother Ye keeps adding more dishes to Han Qian, and Father Ye orders wine for Han Qian when he arrives, but is ignored by one of Yates's. His eyes were frightened, and Han Qian had no choice but to speak. Uncle, I have been injured recently. Next time I go to Binhai, I will arrange a one-stop service for you. As soon as he finished speaking, Yates stepped on Han Qian's feet, picked up a piece of braised pork and put it in Han Qian's bowl. Han Qian instantly frowned and forced himself to swallow the meat. Ye Ma saw Han Qian's no, he asked softly. What's wrong? Xiao Qian doesn't eat meat. Han Qian smiled and shook his head. Meat eaters. It's just so delicious. After saying this, Yates curled his lips and said disdainfully. My mother is from Shanghai and likes sweets. As a northerner, it is normal for you not to like sweet dishes, so please stop being hypocritical, Mr. Han. Do you want to eat pickles if they are available? Han Qian narrowed his eyes and smiled. Eat. The chopsticks fell to the ground while he was talking. Han Qian bent down to pick them up and stretched out his hand to pinch Yates' legs. He gritted his teeth. When he stood up again, Han Qian smiled at the two elders. In fact, he didn't have any special ideas. Come and tease Yates. At the dinner table, the two elders of the Ye family asked about Han Qian's work. Han Qian explained softly that there was indeed a hotel that was opened in partnership with others. Yates is now running it. He is working as a white-collar worker in other companies and is learning some experience. Being his own boss and having to work in other companies, Han Qian was immediately labeled as being humble and hard-working. After dinner, Han Qian chatted with the old couple in the living room about Yates's stay in Binhai City, and mostly complained about it. Yates, who was hiding in the bedroom, couldn't stand Han Qian, who was like a Tang monk anymore, so he opened the door and faced Han Qian, hooked his hand and said softly. Mr. Han. Come here. Han Qian narrowed his eyes and smiled. I don't go. Yates was furious, and Han Qian had no choice but to stand up. As soon as he reached the door, he was caught and the door was slammed. When Han Qian was still a little confused, he was pushed to the bed. Han Jian was busy. Pulling the quilt over him, Yates said angrily. "Don't touch my quilt." Han Jian retorted quietly. "It's not like we've never slept in the same bed before. Why did you call me to the bedroom? It's broad daylight. Put away those messy thoughts in your mind. Why did you come to my house?" Han Jian put away his laughter, walked to the window, opened it, took out a cigarette, dropped it into his mouth, and said softly. "Has Lu Shenga told you about Jian Huan?" When the business came up, Yates stopped worrying about the mess with Han Jian and said solemnly. "Yes." Lu Shenga was depressed for a long time after learning the news of Jian Huan's suicide. He said that he originally thought he could have more fun, but he didn't expect Jian Huan to commit suicide. In addition, he said that he encountered many people when he entered Binhai. Trouble, he has had conflicts with Lin Mend on more than one occasion, which is why he has always had a bad attitude towards Lin Zongheng. Han Jian nodded. At this time, Yates took a cup and placed it by the window sill, and said softly. "Lu Shenga is a petty person who holds grudges and retaliates. His hobby is just one word, playing. Playing online games, playing football and basketball, playing cards and betting on horses, and even risking his life. As long as it can be related to playing, he will. I like them all. He once raised a yellow bird, named Han Jian, but after meeting you, he gave this bird to me, and now it is the one on my balcony." Han Jian took a deep breath, threw most of the remaining cigarettes into the water glass, walked up and patted Yates on the shoulder. "I'll give you a few days off. When I go back to Binhai, you come back with me, and you can play by yourself the rest of the time. I'll leave first, so I won't spend the night at your house." Yates turned around and opened the door, smiling. "Mr. Han, walk slowly." In this way, Han Jian was kicked out by Yates. He called Ji Jing to ask which hotel they were in, but was told that they were shopping outside. Luo Shen had arranged the hotel, but they hadn't gone there yet. Then Han Jian called Luo Shen, but within 20 minutes, this woman came over. Wearing a long skirt with cut sleeves, Luo Mature lowered the window and smiled at Han Jian. "Which mother-in-law is this for you?" The two pair dimples on his face looked very nice when he smiled. Han Jian asked softly if he could serve wine. Luo Shen was slightly startled, then raised his hands and pointed at the pair dimples and told Han Jian that he could try it. After getting in the car, Luo Shen smiled. "Come home with me." Han Jian shook his head. "It's okay to meet your parents alone. I don't want to go back and be admired like a monster by your Luo family. Really want to see me? I'm repulsed." "Then see you." "I arranged for Nuan and the others to stay at my hotel. It's not very famous, and the security and hygiene are absolutely top-notch. I heard that you are accompanying Ji Bobo to the zoo this time. Why are you so carefree?" Han Jian stretched out and lay back on the chair, closed his eyes and said calmly. "Come out and relax with them, and also relax for myself. Now when I have nothing to do, I always feel that I am too insidious. Sometimes I will be soft-hearted. Once I am really soft-hearted, I may lose. Enjoy the shares received. How much?" 15. Including Zhang Xian's 10%, these 5% have taken up a lot of my assets. Continue to collect. After it exceeds 20%, let your puppet enter Changxiang to participate in the board of directors. This is just part of the plan. It won't take long for me to give you a satisfactory answer. Find a place to eat. Yates, my mother is from Shanghai, I don't like sweet food, and I don't eat seafood either. I'll treat you to noodles. You like noodles? Authentic fried noodles. Luo Shen took Han Jian to a well-known noodle restaurant in the capital. Looking at a bowl of noodles with fried soybean paste that cost 40 or 50 yuan, Han Jian frowned and asked in a low voice if he could find a cheaper place. He was told that it was almost always like this. Due to the price, Han Jian gave up. Of course, it's expensive. In Binhai, there was only one bowl of noodles. When we arrived in the capital, one bowl of noodles came with 6 or 7 small bowls, all of which were filled with side dishes. Seeing Han Qian not moving his chopsticks, Luo Shen took Han Qian's bowl. Noodles, picked up cucumber shreds and said softly, "This is more troublesome to eat. Do you have any taboos?" Han Qian shook his head and chuckled. "I basically eat whatever grows in the soil, so I can just do it myself." Luo Shen shook his head and said softly, "I know it's your first time to eat it, so let me do it. Do you want to eat coriander? Eat. Bean sprouts? Don't eat. Don't you grow from the soil? Bean sprouts sprout in water." Luo Shen tilted his head and looked at Han Qian helplessly, then spoke after a long silence. "You know the difference very clearly. You just don't eat any of it in the water." "I eat kelp." Luo Shen put the mixed noodles in front of Han Qian. Han Qian took a bite and frowned slightly. He muttered in a low voice that it was no different from what he made, except that he didn't use many seasonings when eating at home. Luo Shen smiled and she ate. "Very ladylike," she said while eating. "Han Qian, have you ever felt that you are being hypocritical? I checked your information and found that you have been classified as grandma's inconvenient and uncle's type since you were born. Moreover, the relationship between you and your father's brothers and sisters is very stiff. Why are you so pretentious?" Han Qian raised his head and smiled bitterly. "Am I being hypocritical?" Luo Shen nodded seriously and said seriously, "Aren't you a bit pretentious? You are particularly pretentious. Let's talk about eating first. You are famous in Binhai City for being picky about food. Everyone in the government office knows that Cheng Jin's wife added crabs to you and you put them on the table. I don't know how to eat. When it comes to doing things, you hate having people refute your ideas and plans, and even raising opinions will make you dissatisfied. You talk about being low-key, but what you do is attracting everyone's attention. The most important thing is that no one is there. I can persuade you, and you agree happily, but your hands are not idle, and what's more, why don't you say thank you when I mix noodles for you?" Han Qian scratched his head in embarrassment. Just when he was about to speak, Luo Shen picked up the soy sauce beef on the table and stuffed it into Han Qian's mouth. She used her chopsticks, but she didn't notice and continued. "Actually, you are only half hypocritical. You are more proud. Arrogant. So arrogant. Even if the prince of the capital is standing in front of you, you will not bend down. Is this really good? You will get hurt." Han Qian smiled naively and said softly, "Not good, not good." Lowering his head to eat noodles, Luo Shen looked at Han Qian with his chin in one hand and said helplessly, "Look. You promised again, but you didn't take what I said seriously. I saw the shadow of the man recorded in the ancient books in you. Han Qian, if you lived in ancient times, you would either control the government and the public. The prime minister, or the bandits occupying the top of the mountain, well, the same as Song Jiang, but you are more ruthless than Song Jiang. Why can't I be emperor? If you become emperor, there won't be another country in Asia. Where will you go after dinner? I do not know." Looking at Han Qian's bottomed bowl, Luo Shen said again, "Do you dislike it?" Han Qian smiled. "Don't waste food." When Luo Shen turned Han Qian's face, a handsome face appeared between the two of them. They both reached out and pressed their hands on the face. Despite this, the handsome young man came over and pointed at Han Qian. "Look at Luo Shen. Sister, is this your choice? This guy's side stories could fill a novel." Luo Shen glared at Luo Fu and said irritably, "Get out." Luo Fu walked closer to Han Qian, took out a bank card from his jacket pocket and put it on the corner of the table, saying arrogantly, 2 million, I'll give it back to you. Han Qian. You can hit me, but you can't bully my sister. What's the password? Do you really want it? The password is written on the back. After saying this, Luo Fu put the car keys on the table and said again. The car is parked outside, take my car. Not open. Han Qian, are you sick? I've already apologized to you, and I was the one who got kicked. That's because you're stupid. Luo Fu was so angry that he couldn't speak, and Luo Shen chuckled. Okay, you two, stop arguing. Han Qian, I'll give you my keys too. The one Xiaofo sent is the GL8, which is suitable for you to go out and play. You can also drive my car. It's more convenient to have a car in the capital. I guess Miss Nuan can't go to the subway with you, okay. I'm leaving, tell me when you go back to Binhai, and I'll go back with you. Han Qian nodded. Go and get busy. If you have trouble at home, you can call me. I will. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 688. Looking at the two cars at the door, Han Qian has been confused about one thing. Why do Chinese people like BMW and Mercedes-Benz? Luoshan left behind a BMW and a GL8. Han Qian reluctantly called Guan Yunbiao and asked him to come over and help drive. The coquettish Guan Degu soon appeared in front of Han Qian. He drove a BMW, and Han Qian drove a GL8 to pick up Nuan and the others. The girls looked at the two cars in front of them and began to task and murmur nursery rhymes. Han Qian, which rich woman did you hook up with again? You are such a crooked man. After speaking out, Ji Jing said coldly. There are many rich women here now, is my eldest nephew not serious? Nursery rhyme pouted. Anyway, it's okay if you're not a rich woman. You can be found everywhere. It's like a mother's business. After saying that, Tong Yao had already got into the car. Yan Qingqing took the car keys and she wanted to drive. Nuan sat in the passenger seat. Ji Jing, Cai Qinghu, Tong Yao, and Yu Shisai sat in the back. Xiao Baibei pestered Han Qian to talk to Han Qian. Go together. Guan Yunbiao drove the BMW, Li Li sat in the passenger seat, Han Qian and Suliang sat in the back, and Xiao Baibei sat in the middle and was protected by his two uncles. Han Qian smiled and asked Li Li if he had named the child. When Suliang mentioned his name, he covered his head and said helplessly. What a name! Qian brother Guan, you two have to judge. I think the boy will be called Suchingliu and the girl will be called Susu. If they don't agree, the boy must be called Suzagzun. Li Li said proudly. The baby in my belly. Guan Yunbiao said seriously from the side. Brothers and sisters, Korean dramas are all lies. Suliang laughed loudly after saying this, and Li Li also chuckled. At this time, Xiao Baibei suddenly asked whether he was a younger brother or a younger sister, and then asked Suliang if he would not want Baibei after having a younger brother or younger sister. These words made Suliang feel a little sad. He picked up Xiao Baibei and put his head on the little baby's head in his arms, saying pamperingly. Uncle loves Baibei the most. Why don't you want Baibei? Let your uncle Qianer give the gift to your younger brother and sister after they are born, and then all the money will be given to Baibei, okay. Han Qian smiled and cursed. You. Are you good at settling accounts? When my eldest nephew was born, I didn't have anything else. I paid 10,000 yuan for milk powder. The rest was paid to brother Guan. He has become very wealthy recently. Guan Yunbiao laughed after hearing this. 10,000 diapers, one piece. The three men laughed. At this time, Xiao Baibei looked at Han Qian and said seriously. Yumua. Han Qian was angry with Xiao Baibei, so he slapped his little butt gently and said seriously. No swearing. We arrived at the hotel on the outskirts of Luoshan's house at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Where in the hell is this a hotel? Isn't this just a large villa? And it is definitely safe to only receive one group of guests at a time. Walking in the door, Wen Nuan stretched out his arms and put his arms around Yan Qingqing's neck and tucked it under his armpits. Let's go. Sister will take you to choose a room. Just like that, Wen Nuan forcibly dragged Yan Qingqing away. Han Qian was so frightened that he swallowed his saliva. Wen Nuan really had a way to deal with Yan Qingqing. Then he looked at the people standing at the door. Tong Yao looked at Ji Jing. Ji Jing picked up Xiao Baibei and said softly. Let's go, Baibei, you sleep with my aunt. When the words came out, Han Qian's eyes widened, his mouth opened and he gestured with both hands, but the result was not clear. Then Tanjao glanced at Yu Shisai and smiled. Shisai, let's sleep on the second floor. Yu Qinu looked at Han Qian with fiery eyes. The latter lowered his head and looked at his toes without daring to raise his head. He was relieved that Tong Yao didn't live in the same room as Ji Jing. Suliang took Li Li to choose a room. Guan Yunbiao glanced at Han Qian and was kicked away by Cai Qinghu. Lady Cai looked at Han Qian lovingly. Modesty. Ms. Sir. As soon as he finished speaking, Yan Qingqing suddenly opened the door and rushed out, followed closely by Wen Nuan. The two of them held Cai Qinghu's arms, one on the left and the other on the right, and said in unison. You sleep with us? The room is large with tatami mats. You can remain silent. In this way, Han Qian was the only one left at the door, and Han Qian immediately fell in love with the solid wood arhat bed in the study room on the first floor. It was somewhat similar to the ancient emperor's bed. Han Qian took off his shoes and lay on the bed, casually taking them out. A book. Not long after, Guan Degu came back, holding a pot of tea in his hand and placing it on the small table of the arhat bed. The two of them drank tea and looked at the stone path and fountain in the yard through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Guan Yunbiao got a cup of tea. Said softly. It's much more comfortable here than staying in a hotel. I just checked. There are cameras and security guards on both sides of the villa. The only drawback is that you have to cook by yourself. There are ingredients in the refrigerator. You can go up to the top floor. The pond in the yard is about half a meter. From left to right, Xiao Baibei's head can be exposed when he stands inside. As soon as he finished speaking, Guan Yunbiao took out a pistol and a short knife and placed them on the table. Han Qian frowned and smiled bitterly. How did you bring these two things onto the train? Can these things be brought into the capital? Guan Yunbiao smiled lightly. I came to the capital to protect your safety. You are good at business, and I also have my own connections. You can take the pistol, and I can take the short knife. There are many people who want your life, so you'd better be careful. While talking, Suliang came down from the second floor, stepped forward and slipped on the bed, looked at the two objects on the table, and smiled. You'd better carry a gun. Everyone thinks that you and Feng Lun are close. We both know clearly that he has always wanted your life. Just after they finished speaking, the three heard the door to the room on the first floor being opened. Han Qian was busy putting away his gun and hiding it in the bookshelf. Guan Yunbiao pulled out a short knife and asked the two if they were awesome. Yan Qingqing looked at the three with disdain. The three old men were chatting on the first floor about Feng Lun, Kui Li, national affairs, the US attack on Iraq, then they talked about how aggrieved the Song dynasty was, the toughness of the Ming dynasty, and finally they talked about Iron Man and Bump Man. In short, it's not serious at all. Blow smoke, and speak freely. Tong Yao was lying on the railing on the second floor, holding a can of Red Bull in his hand and said calmly. Han Qian hasn't been so relaxed for a long time. Suddenly I feel that Han Qian is so pitiful. He seems to have never been loved since he was a child. Aunt G leaned against the railing, holding a bottle of beer in her hand. I have told his fortune many times, and I have had many fortune tellers, and they all said that he was destined for hard work. I don't know if I will meet him in the next life, so I will give him my best in this life. Tong Yao shrugged, turned around and looked at Ji Jing, frowning. So you always want me to become you? What you give Han Qian is the tenderness he needs. The warmth allows Han Qian to shoulder family responsibilities. Yan Qingqing gives Han Qian a job. Cai Qinghe gives Han Qian no pressure and peace. The companionship of burden is different for everyone, so don't expect all of us to be like you. Ji Jing raised her head and drank half a bottle of wine, breathing a long sigh of relief. Can you play cards? Northern style. I'll call Lili and Yan Qingqing. The chess and card room is on the first floor. Not long after, Han Qian heard the sound of several girls playing mahjong. Their teapots were also taken away by Yan Qingqing, who told Han Qian that they were making a pot. Han Qian smiled helplessly. This time, Suliang got up and went. I took a few bottles of beer and found a lot of snacks in Han Qian's school bag. The three old men were drinking and chatting about life. In Suliang's words, he had accepted his fate now and it would be good to live a stable life. Han Qian sighed. I also want to be safe and stable. Unfortunately, my life is full of ups and downs. A serious illness completely changed my life, otherwise. I guess I should be doing some small planning in Shuncheng or Huishan now. You may also do some small shopping, go out early and come back late, watch TV with your wife, and do homework with your children. After saying this, Guan Yunbiao smiled. That kind of life is too boring, brother Han. Liang Er enjoyed life before marriage. As for you, your life is behind you. Han Qian smiled and opened a bag of chicken feet. Just as he was about to eat it, Wen Nuan pulled Cai Qinghu and Yu Shisai over, took the chicken feet from Han Qian's hand, and said softly. You three go out to drink, I want to play cards here. Han Qian frowned and looked at Nuan, wondering. Can you? This sentence was wrong. The three people were kicked out with 3 bottles of beer, a bag of peanuts and 3 chicken feet. When they went out, Han Qian reminded them not to forget that Xiao Baibei was still sleeping upstairs. The child would cry when the time came. Was not heard. As a result, Ji Jing took out her mobile phone and told Han Qian that her other mobile phone was on the 2nd floor, and the 2 mobile phones were on video. In the yard, Han Qian was drinking beer and lying on the lawn looking at the sky. Suliang and Guan Yunbiao were talking about basketball. They didn't understand and didn't want to listen. This is just great. 7 people gathered together, 1 table of mahjong and 1 table of poker. Han Qian was suddenly glad that Wen Nuan didn't know how to play mahjong, otherwise he would have to gather someone else. Sighing softly, he closed his eyes with a smile. What a nice break. Seeing that it was almost dark, several girls were still playing, and Xiao Baibei had already woken up, thinking about returning to the underground world in the afternoon. It seemed that this plan was about to go to waste. Han Qian hugged Xiao Baibei and sat in the living room and watched 2 grown men playing games. When Han Qian was drowsy, Nuan appeared behind Han Qian and whispered softly. Why are you holding Baibei instead of me? Han Qian didn't think too much, closed his eyes and said calmly. You're too big. When the words came out, Yan Qingqing laughed loudly and reminded Han Qian in a low voice that Wen Nuan was not big. This sentence made Wen Nuan angry and he roared angrily. Go cook. I'm hungry. Even when we went out to play, we couldn't escape cooking. 3 men walked into the kitchen. It turned out that 2 of them couldn't cook. Guan Yunbiao was cutting potatoes with a short knife. I have to say that his knife skills were really good. It was a pity that he didn't know how to cook. The potato slices were cut too thin. Suliang insisted on making cooked chicken wings and asked Guan Yunbiao to help change the knife. Guan Yunbiao may have misunderstood. He quickly separated the chicken wings and bones cleanly, and then nursery rhymes and Lily rushed out of the kitchen and they went to play mahjong. He must have had itchy hands for a long time. Lily's kitchen skills are not as good as those of Tong Yao. He basically just helps the child monster. When he saw Tong Yao cutting live crabs in half, Han Qian ran out of the kitchen. This bitch is so bloody. He also went into the chess and card room and replaced Ji Jing. He took a look at the thick chips that Ji Jing had won. Han Qian was ready to kill everyone. When the meal started, Han Qian cheated and ran away, not to mention that he had lost everything. And still owe a lot. Guan Yunbiao looked at the thick chips in front of him and smiled. Han Qian ran away. Can you two pay the bill? This guy beats everyone. As long as it has something to do with anything inappropriate, Guan Yunbiao is always better than others. The dinner was very sumptuous. The three women cooked more than 20 dishes. They didn't eat at noon, they were just waiting for the evening meal. Nuan ate with a bowl in hand. Most of the people here were acquaintances, and she didn't really care. Image, Yan Qingqing opened her mouth to say a few words, when Nuan picked up an eggplant box and stuffed it into her mouth, mumbling. You're just out for fun, don't act like a boss. Can't you keep your mouth shut when you eat? Sister, feed you. Yan Qingqing stared at Wen Nuan, her face turned green with anger, and then Lily spoke weakly. Dr. Wen, do you usually diet and pay attention to your figure? Nuan raised his head and glanced at Lily, smiling. Just call me warm. I used to pay attention to it, but Han Qian didn't let me be strong. I haven't paid attention to it since then, and I haven't gained much weight. Lily nodded, and Yushasai sighed. People are so irritating. I don't eat dinner every day and I can't control my weight. I see that Qinghu doesn't diet at all. She doesn't gain weight either. Cai Qinghu held a piece of pig's trotters in his hand and said calmly. I have to work out in the gym for 2 hours every day. If I don't exercise, I won't dare to eat. What about you, Ji Jing? I don't work out, I'm lazy. I'm similar to Wen Nuan, the type who just eats and doesn't gain weight. Yan Qingqing was about to speak again, but Wen Nuan had already picked up a piece of meat and was waiting for her. This time Yan Qingqing was not ambiguous, opened her mouth to eat the meat, and said vaguely. I run in the morning and at night, which is my only exercise. I usually have a heavy workload and forget to eat. My figure is just like this. In fact, it's not good at all. I feel the pain quietly. I'm tired. The atmosphere on the table changed instantly. Wen Nuan and Cai Qinghu looked at Yan Qingqing with murderous eyes. Wen Nuan's hand holding the chopsticks had changed. Han Qian picked up Bai Bei and stood up, ready to escape from the battlefield. At this time, there was a sound of high heels tapping outside the door, followed by a soft voice. Hello girls. I'm here to help you. Regarding Wu Qingxi's sudden appearance, Nuan and Yan Qingqing expressed very calmly, saying that they didn't need to crowd into the same room if someone was staring at them at night. 2 updates today, something trivial. I owe you an update. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 689. I originally wanted to go to the underwater world after dinner. It is said that the underwater world is very beautiful at night. He looked back at the girls who were having a drink at the table and looked at Aunt Ji who was fisting with Guan Daegu. Han Qian was helpless. Sighed. I'm going out for a while. Wen Nuan waved casually and pulled Yan Qingqing to throw the dice. They both had a little bit of xiaojuju in their hearts. It was a tacit plan. Li very smartly said that he could help take care of the children in the evening. Please feel free to do so. The scene and mood when Han Qian walked out of the villa's front door were exactly the same as when Xingyi walked out of the house as Tang Bohu. Life is never perfect. Girls who are dignified and elegant on the outside can't be evaluated in private. If there is a score line, regardless of their appearance, they would be less than 5 points in Han Qian's heart. Walking out of the yard and seeing a motorcycle outside the gate, Han Qian asked curiously and learned that it belonged to one of the security guards or a motorcycle enthusiast. Han Qian asked for the car key, pushed the motorcycle and started trotting, ignited it and turned the accelerator pedal. After getting on the car, the motorcycle twisted and painted an S on the road and disappeared under the street light. We opened Dayahang and entered the city to see the majestic Forbidden City. Unfortunately, it was night and many places were not allowed to visit. After going around in a circle, he met 2 cats. Han Qian thought that the cats would run away when they saw him. Unfortunately, these 2 cats, the uncle just glanced at Han Qian out of the corner of his eye, with a somewhat contemptuous expression. After shopping for about an hour, I left the Forbidden City and came to the square where the national flag was raised. I bowed deeply to the portrait of the great man, then got on my motorcycle and headed to the busiest street in Beijing at night. Gradually, Han Qian felt a car following him behind him in the capital. Han Qian was not afraid at all. He got out of the car, lit a cigarette and waited for the uninvited guest. The silver Jaguar stopped in front of Han Qian, and a man in a black suit got out of the car. He was about the same figure as Lu Shengge. He was a tall and lanky man. He didn't have eunuch Liu's handsome face, but had a more easygoing air. The man stepped forward and Han Qian handed him a cigarette. The latter shook his head and smiled. "Do not smoke." Han Qian shrugged and said calmly. "Looking for a drink somewhere?" "Do not drink." After finishing his words, Han Qian took out his car keys, rode on his motorcycle, and spoke again. "Bye-bye." "No. Master Han, please wait a moment." The man lost the confidence and elegance on his face just now, and eagerly left Han Qian behind. Han Qian smoked a cigarette and looked at the man with squinted eyes and said indifferently. "The surname is Lu or Luo?" The man said softly. "The latter, my name is Luo Yan, and I am Luo Shen's cousin. I heard that Mr. Han came to the capital, and I came here to say hello to you." Han Qian looked at Luo Yan with a look of helplessness on his face. "I said, big brother, you are the prince of the capital, and I am a small farmer in a remote mountainous area. In ancient times, we were the heirs and pariahs. Your words like this will make me wary of you." Luo Yan chuckled and spoke calmly. "Master Han's deeds are no longer confusing in the capital circles. In just 1 year and 1 month, he has firmly sat at the top of Binhai city. Such a person should be respected. Forget it. You better stop respecting me. I am now cooperating with Luo Shen. I can't help you with anything, or I don't see the value in you." After saying that, Han Qian started the motorcycle and continued to move forward. Luo Yan opened the passenger door and asked the woman to drive. He wanted to chase Han Qian and continue chatting. Cheetah quickly caught up with Han Qian, and the motorcycle and the car were kept pace with each other. Luo Yan shouted softly. "Master Han, can it be that value is seen with the eyes? Luo Shen is a woman. Even if he takes over the company, he will return to Luo Fu in the end. And Luo Fu doesn't just have a little hatred for you. Luo Shen just takes you, use it as a tool. Let you help her get through the difficulties." Han Qian rode his motorcycle and sang loudly. "Chief of Staff, don't give me false praise. Don't take it seriously if you sacrifice yourself to save others. Open a tea house, hope for prosperity, and be the most loyal person in the world." Luo Yan was stunned for a moment, then smiled. "Young Master Han, there is another line at the end about leaning against a big tree to enjoy the shade. Why don't you continue singing?" Han Qian stopped his motorcycle, turned his head and glanced at the woman driving, was slightly startled, and sneered. Huh? Big tree? I am the big tree. But you are the uncle, Luo Yan. When can you get the right to speak to the Luo family and then talk to me? Don't listen to the little girl and think that Luo Shen and I are, there is such a bloody feud between Lushenga. As for the value. When can you get your number in Binhai City? Come and see me, I'm safe. You let me down a little. As soon as he finished speaking, Han Qian rode his motorcycle into the small road, leaving behind Luo Yan, who looked unwilling, and Anan, who bit her lower lip and looked pale. The simple word disappointment penetrated her self-esteem and aloofness like two bullets. She thought that Luo Yan would be able to look up at the scenery that Han Qian and Lu Shenga were watching, but she didn't expect that it was all in her eyes. Luo Yan, who was like a god, was just a passerby in front of Han Qian. It was even said that Han Qian had not looked directly at Luo Yan from the beginning. He had probably forgotten this person's name at this moment. She knew that Binhai City was a small 4th and 5th tier city. If it hadn't been for constant news over the past year, no one would even know about this city. But now the second young master of the Luo family has to go to Binhai City to get a name. Are you qualified to talk about the word value with him? Luo Yan closed his eyes and took a deep breath, took out a cigarette and lit it in his mouth. Then he coughed, and then Anan spoke. If you had just accepted his cigarette, maybe your chat would not have been so short. I asked Xiao Ci and she got the news from Lu Shengguo. It is very simple. She would rather passers-by not to make enemies. Second young master Luo, please continue thinking. Well, it's too late, I should go home. Luo Yan frowned while holding a cigarette in his mouth. Why does he? Because of the women behind him. I admit that Cai Qinghu is very rich, but she is just rich. After hearing this, Anan frowned and said coldly. Second young master Luo, I'm very realistic. Goodbye. After getting out of the car, hailing the taxi and leaving, Luo Yan had a look of disdain on his lips. He had no shortage of women, let alone beautiful women. He was wondering why Han Qian was so proud. After investigating his information, he was in Binhai. There are no businesses in the city, and there is not even 10,000 yuan in the bank card. With those few women supporting you. At the end of the path, Han Qian was squatting next to his motorcycle, smoking a cigarette. He was about to finish the cigarette. Just as he was about to stand up, the sound of high-heeled shoes came quickly, and Anan, panting, appeared in front of Han Qian with his hands on his knees. In front of. I'm not late. Han Qian squatted on the ground and looked at Anan's beautiful legs in black stockings and said calmly. I didn't ask you to come over. Whether you are late or not is none of my business. Anan raised her head and looked at Han Qian. Under the street light, her expression was full of tangle and humiliation, and she made up her mind to say something. I keep myself very clean. No one has touched me. My background is not good, and I am not smart. What I said about my father being a businessman is a lie. I have nothing. When I went to junior high school, I knew that if I want to live the life I want in my whole life, I can only sell it with this body. Han Qian threw her a cigarette, and then a lighter. Anan didn't hesitate, lit the cigarette and took a deep breath. She wanted to cough, but she didn't dare. Han Qian stood up and stretched. What do you want? I can't give you any help in the capital. My power is in Binhai. I only need to borrow your reputation. I am not a vase or a delicate flower. Take it off. The two sudden words made Anan freeze in place. She looked around, looking at this indifferent man with disbelief in her eyes. Han Qian turned around and got on the motorcycle. Seeing this, Anan unbuttoned his clothes one by one. Throw it on the ground. In the end, she was left with only a pair of socks squatting in a dark corner, and the man who humiliated her had disappeared into the darkness. The tears couldn't stop falling, and I hugged my knees with my hands and choked softly. Suddenly, the ringtone of her cell phone made her panic. She ignored the leaked love and searched frantically for her cell phone. Just a text message. I will let people from the Lu family and Luo family contact you. There is only one chance. If you fail, you will only be destined to be a vase. And you may not necessarily appear in someone's bed. Well, I'll see next time. Anan put on her clothes and sat under the street lamp, crying and laughing at the same time. She knew that this time she made the right bet, seducing Luo Yan to come to see Han Qian. This was her only chance to see Han Qian. Half an hour later, a Volkswagen Beetle stopped in front of her. Zhou Yaya got out of the car and hugged her daughter with tears on her face, saying softly, "Is it worth it? Lu Shengyu asked me to pick you up, and also gave you 2 ways to take over a branch of the Lu family, and invest a sum of money. The profits will be yours, and the losses will be treated as wasted." As soon as she finished speaking, Yaya's cell phone rang. The girl looked down and frowned. "Luo Fu? This second-generation ancestor called me in the middle of the night? Is he sick?" Having said this, Yaya still pressed the connect button. As soon as the call was connected, Luo Fu's roar came from the phone. "Damn it, is Anan out of his mind? There are quite a few wealthy second-generation people and young men pursuing him, right? What are you doing to provoke Han Qian, a mad dog?" Zhou said angrily. "There's something wrong with your humming brain." Luo Fu suddenly became quiet, and then sighed helplessly. "I am indeed mentally ill. Ask your best friend whether she wants to invest or run a company. If she wants a company, I will give her a team to take her. If she wants to invest, if someone has no money, let her think about it and come to Luo's house to find me. Damn it. Next time if something happens, you guys can tell me during the humming day, and if Han Qian catches me doing something in the middle of the night, am I a humming bitch?" While Luo Fu was cursing, the phone was hung up. Yaya turned to look at her dull best friend, closed her eyes and sighed. "It seems worth it. Anyway, you are raising your body in exchange for benefits, you too, Han Qian." Looking at her best friend's 2 thumbs, Anan raised her head and choked. He didn't even look at me. Not even out of the corner of his eye. My most proud and precious thing is worthless in his eyes. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 690. In the eyes of Han Qian, the opportunity that Anan regarded as a treasure was just a little interest collected by the Lu and Luo families. Luo Fu was a dandy, but he was not stupid. He wished that Han Qian would keep asking him for help and let Han Qian owe him money. Favors are more useful than money. He owed a favor, and my sister had a bodyguard who was even more violent than Nir in Binhai City. How could Lu Shengyu not understand what Luo Fu Neng understood? This matter is really not worth mentioning in their eyes. Han Qian is indeed a little hungry and hot now, but he has not yet reached the point where he must vent his animal desires, and he has no plans to do anything to Anan. A paranoid little girl just wants an opportunity. Han Qian knows how difficult it is to get an opportunity. He doesn't want this girl who has had a double relationship to sell her body. It's just an opportunity, but he has never thought about meeting her again. Ride back to the villa. They are probably all asleep now. In the Lu family, Lu Shengyu was sitting in the study in his pajamas, smoking. He had just talked to Lu Shengge on the phone and told her about the matter. His brother's answer was concise and to the point. "What do you tell me about your business? Are you sick?" Lu Shengyu is a little confused now. What does Han Qian mean to this Anan? Based on what he did to the women around him, this Anan will most likely get a lot of charity and help from Han Qian. If so, Lu Shengyu, I don't mind having to compromise and get together with Zhou. But what if it was just Han Qian's whim? As a last resort, Lu Shengguo called Lu Shenga again. This time Lu Shengguo's voice was very sweet. Brother, have you slept? Lu Shenga had a headache due to the commotion, so he covered his head and said in a deep voice. There's fart. Brother, what do you think of Yaya? She is pursuing me. Do you want me to agree? That sentence. Since it was his younger brother's lifelong event, Lu Shenga sat up, clasped his ears, and replied after being silent for a while. Do you think that Han Qian is having an affair with that Anan, and then you want to marry Anan's best friend Yaya, and finally you and Han Qian can be a couple? Lu Shengguo, you pig brain can't it be used on women? And I still like your little girl? Let me tell you first, this sentence-making family is quite special. If you get married, don't even think about leaving. So I'm confused. Brother, how old are you this year? 28. Brother, get married, and let our mother have her grandson as soon as possible. What combination of words and sentences can be used to make a sentence? It's fine for you to marry me. If you think it's good, you can try to make a sentence with this first. Brother, my name is Zusi. Try to get her pregnant as soon as possible. Brother, good night. I haven't finished speaking yet, Xiao Wu. Don't be in a hurry. Lu Shenga looked at the phone in his hand and murmured softly. Xiao Wu, please don't call me at this time. Unfortunately, things went against expectations. Lu Shengguo called Zioci and made it clear that they wanted to date each other. As a result, he was scolded by Zioci, a little troll, and became suspicious of his life. He had never known that he would curse so much when he was so old. Just like that, he was rejected, and then he called Lu Shenga, only to be scolded again. Lu Shengguo weakly walked out of the study. Liu's mother in the living room looked at her listless little son and wondered. What's wrong, baby? Lu Shengguo sat on the sofa and hugged her mother's arm. She told her what had just happened, and then she was scolded again. The direct scolding made Lu Shengguo doubt her life. Wrong. When we returned to the villa, everyone was asleep. A set of bedding appeared on the Luhan bed. We washed our faces and brushed our teeth and went to bed. After a tiring day, we lay on the bed looking at the roof and thinking about Anan. Her paranoia was as if she had committed a fraud. Although there are many differences and the results are different, there are indescribable similarities. This may be a resonance shared by poor people. In fact, Han Qian also wants to see how far this girl can go and whether there will be a strong woman in the future. She seems to be only 24 years old and has 6 years left. Turning over and taking out his phone, Han Qian thought for a while and put it down. He was a little worried that Lu Shengguo, a kid, would go to Yaya to confess his love at this time. If he confessed, he would be really stupid. If Yaya agreed, and these two idiots really made a couple. Han Qian. A sudden sound in his ear frightened Han Qian. He turned over and looked at Yan Qingqing who was standing beside him. Han Qian covered his eyes and whispered. Why aren't you wearing any clothes? After the words fell, the quilt was lifted, Yan Qingqing got into Han Qian's bed, wrapped her limbs around Han Qian's body, and whispered. He's wearing what he's wearing. Han Qian breathed a sigh of relief, and then heaved a sigh of relief. This can't be done. If something happens, Nuan and Cai Qinghu can kill him tomorrow. Han Qian quickly turned over and looked at Yan Qingqing face to face, and whispered. Aren't you afraid that when Nuan will suddenly wake up when you sneak out? Then you two will quarrel again. It's okay. I drank 2 ounces of white wine and I'm already asleep now. Han Qian. I miss you so much, kiss me. Wave. Han Qian kissed Yan Qingqing's forehead and said softly. We've been apart for less than 2 hours. Go. Go back to bed. I can't. After she finished speaking, Yan Qingqing turned over and pressed down on Han Qian, biting Han Qian's chest. Han Qian almost cried out in pain, turned over and pushed Yan Qingqing into the bed, covering his chest and whispering angrily. "You're biting me, I'm biting you. Come on, come on, come on. Sister-in-law. If I were to deal with you here, we would both be dropped from a tree tomorrow. It makes me uncomfortable if you torment me like this. Don't worry, no one will know. How about I use my hands?" Han Qian's heart was moved, and he was about to agree when the sound of subtle footsteps was heard. Han Qian hurriedly hid Yan Qingqing under the quilt, turned his back to the woman and looked at the girl approaching. He could already tell who it was from her height. "Mr. Prime Minister." "Why?" Han Qian's conditioned reaction made the girl behind him very dissatisfied. Her little hands moved around Han Qian's waist and kneaded her. Cai Qinghu tiptoed to Han Qian's bedside, stretched out his hand to hold Han Qian's face and kissed his lips. Squatting lying on the ground beside the bed, he looked at Han Qian and whispered, "I miss you so much. If I hadn't gotten them drunk, I wouldn't have had the chance to be alone with you, especially Yan Qingqing, who is always staring at me like a fox. Fortunately, my wife, I have a good drinker." "Heh, that's right, ouch. Ms. Sir, what's wrong with you?" "No. It's okay. I was startled by a dog when I came back just now and touched my leg. It's okay. Are you not sleepy after drinking?" As soon as he finished speaking, there was another pain in his waist. At this time, Cai Qinghu suddenly lifted the quilt and got in, hugging Han Qian's arm and saying softly with his eyes closed, "I really want to sleep with my husband in my arms every day, my husband. How about I give Nuan 400 million to let her leave you alone? This method is indeed possible. I will go find her." Seeing Cai Qinghu going to find Wen Nuan, Han Qian panicked. If Wen woke up and found that Yan Qingqing was gone, the villa would be turned upside down. Han Qian put his arms around Cai Qinghu's waist and said softly, "Be good. She's already asleep. You should go to bed early after drinking. I want to sleep with you, my husband. I'll kill them tomorrow. Kiss me, my husband." Cai Qinghu closed his eyes and pouted. At this time, Yan Qingqing suddenly held Han Qian's head and kissed Cai Qinghu's lips. This time, Han Qian was frightened. He stretched out his hands to cover Cai Qinghu's eyes and whispered, "Madam, don't open your eyes. There is a bird outside the window, I'm afraid it will scare you." After saying this, Yan Qingqing pushed her back. Cai Qinghu didn't struggle and said softly in confusion, "Mister, have you eaten candy? Why does it smell like strawberry? Huh? Why do I smell the smell of cosmetics? Tell me. Where have you been?" I, they were playing cards here during the day in Nuan. Maybe they left it behind. Oh. My husband is kissing me. Kiss Tulipai later, be good. Go to bed early, I will take you to see the elephants tomorrow." Cai Qinghu hugged Han Qian's arm and started acting coquettishly, twisting his body and saying coquettishly, "Mister, when will you consummate your marriage with me?" Snapped. Han Qian slapped Cai Qinghu's buttocks and frowned. How can a girl say such things? It was me who took the initiative to consummate the marriage. But you don't want to consummate the marriage. Yan Qingqing wrote 3 words on Han Qian's back. "You cannot." Han Qian closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and sighed softly. "Sleep? Okay." Cai Qinghu didn't want to leave. Suddenly she felt that she was touched by someone. Because she was wearing clothes, she couldn't feel it. Cai Qinghu thought it was Han Qian, blushed and leaned towards Han Qian and whispered, "Ms. Sir, you don't mean what you say." Han Qian tilted his head and said doubtfully, "What? Oh. Mr. Xian. What happened? Han Qian really didn't know what happened, and Han Qian didn't want to dwell on it anymore. He was worried that someone would come looking for him. Just when Cai Qinghu was about to leave, another call came from the stairs. Eldest nephew, are you asleep? Aunt Ji's voice is not quiet, and she is not as cautious as these two thieves. She never hides her love and reconciliation for Han Qian, and she doesn't care what others think. Nope. After saying this, Cai Qinghu pinched Han Qian's waist hard, and then suddenly felt a pain on the back of his hand. This touch was definitely not Han Qian's hand. As soon as Cai Qinghu was about to stand up, Han Qian picked him up and threw him behind him. The girls hugged each other. Then Han Qian pulled the quilt over them and covered them sideways. Ji Jing walked to Han Qian's bedside with a glass of water and laughed softly. Let me see if you are back. Auntie said that you have the habit of drinking water at night, so I prepared a glass of water and brought it to you. Han Qian held his head with one hand and patted the Luhan bed with the other hand. Ji Jing blushed instantly, spat lightly, and whispered. You're getting more and more gangster. You'll be thinking about this when all the wounds on your body have scabbed over and your head is completely clear. Go to bed early. After finishing her words, Ji Jing bent down and closed her eyes and kissed Han Qian on the forehead. Ji Jing thought it was Han Qian and did not resist. She opened her eyes and said weakly with a red face. Be good. Get some rest early, I have to go out tomorrow, I'm waiting to get back to Binhai. After saying this, Han Qian felt two sharp pains in his waist. He endured the pain and sighed. Ji Jing put down the water glass and turned to go upstairs. As soon as Ji Jing went upstairs, the quilt was lifted, and Cai Qinghu put his foot on Han Qian's butt. Kick this scumbag out of bed, then pinch your waist and stare at Yan Qingqing. Yan who? I said there was a ghost in you at night. Is there a food thief here? Yan Qingqing curled her lips. Each other. After saying that, the two girls got out of bed and stepped on Han Qian's back to the room. Han Qian, who stayed in the living room, felt as if his waist was broken. He struggled to get into bed. Just as he was about to go to sleep, there was a knock on the window. Brother Han, have you slept? Have something to drink. Sleep, don't drink, get out. Leaf Style Triple Combo. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 691. When he woke up in the morning, Han Qian felt that his waist was about to break. It was tired, stepped on, pinched, and bruised. These girls would never show mercy when it comes to other girls. It really hurts. Everyone was having breakfast, and Han Qian hid under the quilt to catch up on his sleep. At 9 o'clock, when Nuan arbitrarily tore off Han Qian's quilt, Nursery Rhyme held the clothes in his hand and put them on Han Qian's head. After putting on the clothes, the quilt dragged him into the bathroom to wash up. Han Qian was confused until he was about to go out. What happened? Where am I? What to do? Xiao Baibei hugged Han Qian's legs, looked up at Han Qian and begged for a hug. He raised his head high, and Han Qian held his lower back and whined. My little ancestor. Your uncle's waist is about to break. I ask you to lift it up high. Guan Yunbiao stepped forward and picked up Xiao Baibei and put him on his shoulders. Han Qian turned to look at the girls. Let's go, let's go, let's go. When he turned around, he found that several girls were looking at him with strange eyes. No need to think about it, they must have thought that Han Qian had done something bad last night. Yan Qingqing and Cai Qinghu were so angry that they didn't want to make a car. No way. Wu Qingxi drove Cai Qinghu and Sul Yang. Quan Daegu takes Yu Shisai and Xiao Baibei. Yan Qingqing drove the rest of the people. When Nuan sat in the passenger seat, Tong Yao and Ji Jing sat together. Han Qian hid in the back and carefully watched the news on his mobile phone. He was so angry that he didn't dare to take a breath for fear of provoking a war. Fortunately, the journey to the zoo was uneventful. To be honest, Han Qian has never been to such a large zoo. In the zoo he went to, only goats and camels were considered animals, and the rest were basically poultry. For some reason, Li Li and Suliang took Xiao Baibei to the panda. In the pavilion and the area for gentle animals, Yu Shisai, who said he wanted to see tigers in the car, got scared, whispered to see the children, and ran away. Nuan hugged Yan Qingqing's shoulders and sighed. Ching Ching, you will be able to see your kind soon. I know you are very excited, so I have prepared a sedative for you in advance. Don't be afraid. Go and make out as much as you want. After saying this, Yan Qingqing dragged Yan Qingqing to see the fox. Yan Qingqing was so angry that her teeth only itched, and she couldn't quarrel with Wen Nuan due to the crowd. Ji Jing glanced at Tanjeo, and Tanjeo glanced at Ji Jing. The two of them grabbed each other's arms at the same time, and Tanjeo narrowed his eyes and smiled. MRSG, let me take you to see the camels. You all look the same. Ji Jing chuckled and replied. Okay. Then let's go to the snake house. There must be a primer for the medicine boy to administer the medicine, right? Cai Qinghu hugged Wu Qingxi and watched the excitement. Han Qian did not dare to say a word, but he noticed that Tanjeo's face turned pale instantly and her lips trembled slightly. She is afraid of snakes. But Ji Jing didn't seem ready to let her go. She narrowed her eyes and smiled. I just asked about it. There are docile white pythons here that you can touch. Let's go. Let's see the camels first, and then I'll take you to the snake house. Sister Ji Jing, the kid knows that he was wrong. Everything is the kid's fault. Seeing the nursery rhyme give in, Ji Jing narrowed her eyes and smiled. Do you know it's wrong? Tong Yao kept nodding, and then Ji Jing sighed softly. When she raised her head again, her eyes became sharp and she gritted her teeth. Late. Tong Yao turned around and ran away, but was finally taken away by Ji Jing by her ears. Han Qian never expected that the child monster who was not afraid of heaven or earth would be afraid of worms. Han Qian turned his head and looked at Cai Qinghu and sighed softly. Snakes are really scary. Cai Qinghu chuckled. Ms sir, Xiao Luo Si and I went to see the parrots. You can go shopping by yourself, don't follow me. Because of you, Xiao Luo Si, the scandal has spread. Han Qian blinked and looked at Guan Yun Biao beside him, who ran away. I protect two little promises. Standing alone in the zoo, Han Qian didn't know what to see. He bought an ice cream and a sausage, ate it while walking, looked around, and finally came to the panda house without knowing it. Xiao Beibei saw the ice cream in Han Qian's hand at a glance, and shouted loudly that his uncle is the most handsome. Hypocrisy is nothing more than wanting an ice cream. Han Qian took Xiao Baibei's hand and told Suliang that they should go play and have fun together. Suliang smiled and pulled Li Li away, holding the little baby and sitting on a chair. Han Qian lowered his head and said, We are left alone again. Xiao Baibei hummed, held Han Qian's little finger tightly, pointed at the panda sign and shouted panda. Han Qian pinched his chin and said seriously. Who taught you this? Uncle. Which ant? Foreign ant. It's Yu's poetry, that's right. Why? Where has this woman gone? He had only seen Suliang and his wife just now, but hadn't paid attention to her yet. This woman had been back in China for more than a year. Han Qian was worried that she would get lost here, so he took Xiao Baibei to wander around the panda house aimlessly to see if he could met this girl by chance. After walking around and preparing to leave, Han Qian saw Yu Shisai. Today, This girl was dressed very much in line with Han Qian's taste. She wore high heels, pencil pants, a small suit and a floral chiffon shirt. There seemed to be only two words in her life: work. Just as Han Qian was about to say hello, he found a man behind Yu Shisai who had been chasing her and talking. An idea flashed in his mind. Suitors. Han Qian laughed. He wanted the man to succeed. Yu Shisai was holding the snacks she bought for Xiao Baibei. She was almost bored to death with the man behind her. She even said she didn't want to get to know him, but she still kept pestering her endlessly. The man's condition should be okay and he was well dressed. It was a famous brand, but the thick glasses really made Yu Shisai uninterested. It's also a little greasy, so trousers, leather shoes, and white socks are a no-no. Miss. I think we can get acquainted. There is a saying that goes well: as long as you work hard and become a person, please give me a chance, and I will definitely let you be willing to date me. The man's voice was very loud, as if he was afraid that others wouldn't know he was chatting up. Yu Shisai spoke without turning her head. I am a non-marriage person, and you are not my type. I am only 27 years old, you should be 35, right? I just celebrated my 34th birthday. This is my business card. I'm not interested in you, understand? It's not an iron pestle, and you don't need to sharpen it. That's it, don't bother me anymore. As long as you work hard, you will definitely get results. Yu Shisai turned around and scolded the man severely in German. Unexpectedly, the guy started talking to Yu Shisai in fluent German. Yu Shisai was about to collapse. At this time, he saw Han Qian hiding behind the crowd. Yu Shisai stamped her feet angrily, gritted her teeth and glared at Han Qian. Her eyes turned red for a moment. At this moment, Han Qian knew that he could no longer hide, so he pulled Xiao Baibei towards Yu Shisai. At this time, Yu Shisai turned to look at this unattractive but talented man, and said softly, "No kidding, my husband and I went out to see pandas with my baby today." After the words fell, Yu Shisai squatted down and opened his arms. Xiao Baibei broke away from Han Qian and threw himself into Yu Shisai's arms. Yu Shisai gave Xiao Baibei snacks to eat. Xiao Baibei looked clingy when he got the snacks. Han Qian smiled at the man, and the man waved his hand. "I didn't know you were married, excuse me." Han Qian smiled lightly. "I can't help it, my wife is too beautiful." After the man left, Yu Shisai squatted on the ground and hugged Baibei, who was eating snacks, and whispered softly, "This person should be in the same category as me. If you can recruit him, you will have a good employee." Han Qian curled his lips and said calmly, "Come here and wait for him to know that Baibei is not your daughter. Then continue to pursue you. And then you stare at me with red eyes? Yu Shisai. Don't look at me like that in the future. No. Why? Will you be soft-hearted? I have no heart." Xiao Baibei was riding on Han Qian's neck and looking at the panda. Yu Shisai stood beside Han Qian and gently held Xiao Baibei's ankles, fearing that Han Qian would be careless and let the child fall. Men are careless. Han Qian cannot escape this law. The man is handsome, the daughter is cute, and the woman has exotic beauty. The three of them appear in the same frame and they really match each other, like a family. The only difference is that Yu's poems are too girly. Not long after, Cai Qinghu came back. While eating Xiao Baibei's snacks, she started complaining that the little carrots were too annoying. She didn't like any furry animals. The turtle that held her for a long time. Han Qian couldn't help laughing, and then Yu Shisai asked Cai Qinghu where there were koalas. Cai Qinghu shook his head. "I don't know, we have to find it ourselves. I haven't taken any photos yet. My husband, I'll leave the little carrot shreds to you. I don't care about scandals or not. I'm going to take photos. I want to see the hairy ones." King Hu's character is relatively simple, and the thoughts in her mind are also single, that is, I have to do whatever I want. The kind that doesn't care about any consequences. This time, someone changed around Han Qian, and the tourists who had just observed him started talking. When Wu Qingxi took off her mask to drink water, the panda house exploded. The popular young actress Wu Qingxi appears here unexpectedly. Someone screamed. Ah! Wu Qingxi! Wu Qingxi was so frightened that she didn't even finish the water, so she pulled Han Qian and ran outside. If she was blocked and wanted to leave, it wouldn't necessarily have happened at that time. In the end, the two of them escaped by hiding in a restaurant. Xiao Baibei sat on Wu Qingxi's lap, and Han Qian went to order the 3-point set meal. He is so hungry. Wu Qingxi looked at Xiao Baibei sitting on her lap in annoyance and said helplessly. It's over. I was exposed to the scandal with you not long ago, but now I'm fine. I have children, my God. I have a headache. Han Qian couldn't help but laugh. What are you afraid of? You don't have a contract with the company. Wu Qingxi lamented. How will I get married in the future? You have to be responsible. Marry me? If you marry a celebrity, you will go bankrupt. You don't have 10,000 yuan in your pocket, how can you go bankrupt? What? You really want to marry me? I can consider it. At least I can have a free sparring partner. Roll, roll, roll. Xiao Baibei imitated Han Qian and shouted at Han Qian with a pout. Roll, roll, roll. Monthly ticket. Subscribe, baby. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, A Huan. Chapter 692. Wu Qingxi has a small appetite. She said she could have a portion with Xiao Baibei, but Han Qian did not agree. After all, Wu Qingxi was good to Xiao Baibei because of Han Qian. Han Qian said softly while eating expensive fast food. How is the preparation for your movie going? The Yamanman gave me a new task. I want to include the construction work of Longhui in your movie. It is said to help Binhai City promote it. I am just conveying it. You can see for yourself. Let's do it. Wu Qingxi picked out the celery and carrots on the plate and put them aside, saying softly. It should be no problem. Everything in the script is ready now. When filming starts, you can prepare and guide the details. Han Qian looked at the vegetables picked out by Wu Qingxi and frowned slightly. If you are not afraid, I can arrange for you to meet with Toad and let him tell you the details. Your drama will definitely not be able to delve into the inside story of Binhai City. Just be satisfied. Remember to eat more vegetables. I just don't eat these two kinds. What will happen to Han Qian, you and King Hu in the future? You can't just waste it like this, right? She's not young anymore. It was this troublesome question again. Han Qian put down his chopsticks and slapped his forehead with his hand, sighing helplessly. I don't know what to do now. You should have noticed that they basically turned a deaf ear to what I said. There seems to be some kind of agreement between Wen Nuan and Yan Qingqing. Ji Jing and Tong Yao had a quarrel because of me. We can't talk about it. I can only promise King Hu that she won't get hurt. The rest, I don't know what I should do. There are too many messy things and I don't have the time to think about them. Wu Qingxi closed her eyes and nodded, sighing lightly. I know you're busy, so don't talk about these annoying things. Go watch the hippopotamus. Come out and play, be happy, blame me for talking too much. You go ahead and slap yourself twice. Han Qian, are you sick? How come you are such a straight man and so many girls like you? Warm men are trained, straight men are brand new. Ah! Wu Qingxi sneered, put on a mask and pulled Xiao Baibei out of the restaurant. She had given up resistance. Anyway, her name would appear in the hot searches tomorrow, and there might even be headlines about a hidden marriage and childbirth. Wu Qingxi took Xiao Baibei to see the hippopotamus, while Han Qian went to the snake house to look for nursery rhymes. He was still a little worried. There were very few people in the snake house, and there were basically no children. Han Qian saw nursery rhymes standing at the door being pulled by Ji Jing and unwilling to go in. Han Qian stepped forward, put his hands on the shoulders of the two girls, and smiled. "Let's go. I'll accompany you in, what are you afraid of?" The two girls were slightly startled, but did not resist. They were hugged from left to right and walked into the snake house. Han Qian was really nervous when he walked in. He looked at the long worms inside through the glass. Han Qian swallowed lightly, and then she felt that Tanjiao's whole body was stiff. On the other hand, Ji Jing seemed very calm. Han Qian leaned on Tong Yao's shoulders and whispered, "Are you scared?" I'm very, very scared of this thing, Han Qian." "You two can play, I'm going out first." As soon as she finished speaking, Tong Yao turned around and ran away, not giving the two of them any time to react. Han Qian and Aunt Ji were left holding hands and looking through the glass at the colorful long insects inside. "My nephew, are you afraid of this?" "Afraid?" Han Qian answered honestly, looked at the snake spitting out the letter, and then said, "I'm more afraid of things like this that don't move when they walk well, seeing these is like seeing Fen Lun." Ji Jing held Han Qian's hand firmly and asked a question she had always wanted to ask. "Eldest nephew, are you afraid of Fen Lun?" "Afraid? I'm afraid that he will hurt you at the end of his rope. The last time he returned to Binhai, I immediately asked Suliang to send you to Qianling's house. Fen Lun is very good at catching people's weaknesses. Don't watch anymore." Ji Jing pulled Han Qian away and walked outside. Han Qian smiled. "Have you not seen the white python yet?" "Why haven't you seen it?" "Then I won't read it." "I'm afraid you won't be happy." Han Qian put his arm around Ji Jing's shoulders and smiled. "Let's go. No one is happy or unhappy, let's go. Go see the python." As soon as she finished speaking, a text message came on her phone. It was from a nursery rhyme. She found Wu Qingxi and now went to see Cai Qinghu and the others to watch the killer whale show. She called them on the way out. Han Qian looked at his phone while walking. There were a few missed calls, I didn't know who they were and I was too lazy to reply. Walking into the depths of the snake house, Han Qian suddenly felt a headache when he looked at the girl carrying the python on her shoulders. When Nuan might not know how to write the word scared in this life. The white python as thick as her arm was resisted by her. On the shoulders, there are many staff around to protect her safety. Yan Qingqing on the side stroked the white python's head. Han Qian could clearly feel that the snake was desperate for life. With these two mental illnesses, Han Qian stepped forward and gently slapped Nuan on the back of the head, and then he looked at the staff and said softly, "Can this thing be touched at close range?" The staff looked helpless. There was nothing they could do. It was the meaning passed down from above. Han Qian would never have thought that Nuan, who did not call Li Jinhan when encountering any big trouble, would call Li Jinhan because he wanted to touch a snake. Li Jinhan had no choice but to make a phone call to his niece. Nuan turned to look at Han Qian and smiled naively. "I originally wanted to see pandas up close, but Yan Qingqing refused to go. She said pandas are bears and not cats." Yan Qingqing also had helplessness on her face and sighed softly. At this time, Wen Nuan approached Han Qian and whispered, "Brother Qian, what does a python taste like? Say it." Everyone present panicked. The staff was busy putting the white python back into the display case. Yan Qingqing grabbed the warm collar and dragged it out. She couldn't bear it anymore. While looking at the fox, she asked him what he smelled like. While watching the elephant, she asked if the bananas the elephant ate were different from the ones she ate. When I was looking at the pheasants, I said it would be delicious to make beggar's chicken with this. As for wanting to see pandas up close, she probably wants to taste what bamboo tastes like. Are you still thinking about this white python? Yan Qingqing said as she walked. No. She was brought to the zoo to look at the animals. She seems to be here to choose dinner. There was nothing Han Qian could do about Wen Nuan's delicious personality. Ji Jing smiled and said Wen Wen was so cute. Wen Wen turned around and blew a kiss to Ji Jing and said with a smile. I'm going to buy snakes tonight. Snapped. Yan Qingqing slapped her on the butt and said angrily. Eat your sister. Go watch the dolphins. No, 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 if you don't see the dolphins, you can't eat them. Let's go see the king crabs. That thing is in the seafood market. No conflict, no conflict. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 693. Nursery rhymes, they went to see killer whales. Wen Nuan took the three of them to the seafood market to buy crabs. As a result, Wen Wen took them to the underwater world. They bought tickets and entered. When they walked in, they saw many aquariums with many fish inside. Pretty. It's just that the three of them were not in the mood to see the fish, for fear that Wen Nuan would shout something like, "Waiter, how can this fish be so delicious?" Fortunately, Wen Nuan was not so impulsive, but she opened her mouth to comment. This fish is too big, and it doesn't taste good. Let's go out to sea. Who are you? There is a boat in Qinghu Lake. We finally went out to play once, and it's decided. We'll go back to Binhai tomorrow to go out to sea. Yan Qingqing closed her eyes and said helplessly. Aren't you busy at work? Wen Nuan smiled. I hired my dad to work in a company. After hearing these words, Han Qian's blood pressure rose instantly. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. The warmth suddenly made Lao Wen go to work in Changrong. This was something Han Qian never expected. He was lying on the glass cabinet and watching. Han Qian sighed at the warmth of the agutta. Yan Qingqing asked with a frown. Why did you let the old man come out? Just so you can come out and play this time. Nuan pointed at the agutta and looked at Han Qian, who shook his head gently. Little Phoenix sighed in disappointment and said softly. I asked my dad to go to the company to recruit Chang's Yang people. After all, his credibility is higher than mine. Look at my idleness all day long. Who can believe me? If it weren't for my dad and Han Qian, I guess I've gone home to retire a long time ago. I'll call Qinghu and go to sea the day after tomorrow. If you're in Binhai, call more people and make it more lively. Don't you have nothing to do recently? Yan Qingqing sighed again. I really have nothing to do, but I don't want to play with you. Then you go home, Han Qian, and I will play. Han Qian doesn't want to play with you either. You ask him if he dares to go. I'm wearing a yellow jacket now. If not, I'll take my parents-in-law over. At this time, Han Qian received a call from Lu Shengyu and asked him if he had time to meet. Han Qian softly asked Wen Nuan if he was sure he would go back tomorrow. The latter nodded in the affirmative, and then Han Qian told them to play alone and that he had something to go to. Get busy. When she went out, she called Guan Yunbiao and asked her to get the car keys from Wu Qingxi and go out to do something. The two guys who didn't know the way walked around the city for nearly an hour before they found the place Lu Shengyu mentioned. It was easy to find it when they got up. However, when Han Qian and Guan Yunbiao appeared together, their IQ dropped sharply. After walking into this unknown building, it was called a private club in Guan Yunbiao's words. Then Han Qian asked the two of them if this was considered breaking into a private house. This question made Guan Yunbiao fall into deep thought. Under the guidance of the waiter, I saw Lu Shengyu and several people who were particularly familiar to Han Qian in the backyard of the villa. Luofu, Zhou Ci, Anan, Yates and Luo Yan met on the street that night. Han Qian walked up and sat next to Yates carelessly. After sitting down, he slapped Yates on the leg and said angrily, "Road. You didn't call me when you came out to play? Are you going to rebel?" Yates clutched his legs, gritted his teeth, glared at Han Qian, and whispered, "It hurts. You didn't call me when you went to the zoo? I'm on vacation now. Go back to Binhai tomorrow. Nuan is going to the sea. You go back with me." Without giving Yates a chance to retort, Han Qian took out a cigarette and handed it to Luo Fu. The latter took the cigarette, curled his lips, put it on his ear, took out an unopened box of cigarettes from his pocket and handed it to Han Qian. "I'll give you a taste. I spent a lot of money to get it." Han Qian read the red letters on the white cigarette box and chuckled. "You still have to spend a lot of money on this thing? If you want it, I'll get you a box." Luo Fu curled his lips in disdain. "Just brag. How dare you ask Li Jinhan for this? Yates just said that he has been watching you for smoking lately." "Ah." With a sneer, Han Qian took out his mobile phone and made a call. The call was quickly connected. Han Qian said with a smile, "Brother Hanking. Do you have time to go out to see the day after tomorrow? Let's go together." "The day after tomorrow? Can you tell me in advance? I will go out with the old man the day after tomorrow. If you use a boat, I can send you one. There is a boat in Qinghu Lake. I have something to do with you. I have no cigarettes recently. Do you have any channels? Cigarettes? I have several boxes of that stuff at home. I heard from Yingying that you are restricted from smoking? I don't dare to give it to you. I give gifts." "Oh. Send me the address. Don't let the cigarette fall into your hands, otherwise old man Li Jinhan will definitely cause trouble for me. Bye." The phone hung up immediately. Luo Fu on the side clapped his hands and smiled bitterly. Then Han Qian introduced Guan Yunbiao to everyone. The scene was a little quiet for a while. Xiao Ci squeezed An's hand under the table and gestured for her to speak, but she didn't dare. Han Qian didn't even look at her since he came in. This made An feel unsure. Could it be that her beauty could not catch Han Qian's eyes at all? Yaya couldn't stand the quiet atmosphere anymore and whispered to Han Qian, "Brother Qianer, you want to go to the sea? Bo Hai Sea?" Han Qian raised his head and smiled. "I don't know. It depends on what Wen Nuan and Xinghu want. Do you want to go? It's a pity that Xiao Wu can't go to Binhai." Yaya turned her head and glared at Lu Shengguo and said angrily, "Brother Qianer, don't mention this idiot. I have nothing to do with him. We are not friends. When are you going back to Binhai? And I will go with you." "Anan." Han Qian raised his head and glanced at Anan, who was embarrassed. He didn't speak. Anan said quickly when he saw this, "Yaya, I don't have time recently. If you want to go, just go with Xiao Wu. I'm seasick." Yaya looked at Anan with some confusion, tilted her head and said, "When did you faint? I'm not going anyway." An's reaction made Yaya think that Han Qian had threatened her best friend, but thinking about it, it seemed that her best friend had been waiting for this for a long time. If she argued with Han Qian, her best friend might lose a hard-won opportunity. Luo Yan frowned slightly when he looked at Anan, who was still sitting in her car last night. Yesterday she was just a vase, but today she can appear on this table. This is not a bar, not a nightclub, not a place where you can share a table casually. Luo Yan glanced at this uninvited guest from Binhai City. What was his ability? Lu Shengguo, who had been silent until now, spoke with a wry smile. "Han Qian. You've hurt me so much." After saying this, Han Qian frowned and said in confusion, "You wouldn't have called Yaya to confess your love last night, would you?" The words hit the target, and Lu Shengguo couldn't wait to find a crack in the ground to crawl in. At this time, Han Qian said again. You deserve to be rejected. Is this why you came to me? Lu Shengguo shook her head, pointed at Anan, and said calmly. I asked her to choose between money and the company. I will give it to the company, and Luo will give it to the talent. She didn't choose, and said she wanted to listen to your opinion. Han Qian curled his lips and said disdainfully. You're right if you don't choose. You two want to try the cooperation between the Lu Luo family in An's name, right? Now anyone who is not a fool knows that Luo Shen and Lu Shengge don't interfere in the business in the capital. You two want to be sneaky, you want this idiot An to shield you from your cooperation? The company also wants your cooperation, and you must have a share of the money. Luo Fu picked up a big cherry and threw it at Han Qian, frowning. Now that you are looking for us to do something, can you stop being so awesome? And can you speak more tactfully? Are you too straightforward so that no one will know the secret? Han Qian caught the cherry and stuffed it into Yates's mouth, saying scornfully. You have a shitty secret. After finishing the words, he asked Yates softly if it was sweet. Yates nodded lightly, and then Han Qian nuzzled at Anan, gesturing for her to bring the cherries. When Anan stood up, Xiao Ci pulled her, and Anan gently kissed her best friend. He smiled, picked up the cherries and placed them next to Yates. At this time, Han Qian spoke again. I don't know much about your business, but judging from Luo Shen and Lu Shengge, it's not as simple as 1 + 1 = 2, Luo Fu. Your sister tried every means to get the company and then passed it on to you, you kid, you should also be angry. As for Lu Shengguo, your brother has completely given up on the Lu family. Your thoughts are good. I also hope that the two of you will manage the family and become prosperous. Let's do this. You two will watch Qian. Here, the company is in An's name, you choose a few outstanding talents to lead her. After the words fell, Luo Fu answered with a smile. I think so too, so I want my cousin Mr. Luo Yan to bring his team to the Lu family's company, take care of Anan for 2 years, and then hand over the company to Anan. Han Qian stood up, stretched and yawned. Aha! If she still can't manage a company independently in 2 years, she will be kicked out and she will do whatever she wants. Normally, you don't have to give me too much face. You should talk and scold me, but if someone slaps you, on her body, don't say that I, Han Qian, chopped off my claws without mercy. I'm leaving. Yates, you come with me too. As soon as she left, Anan got up and saw Han Qian out. Outside the door, Han Qian asked Yates and Guan Yunbiao to get in the car first. Watching the two get in the car, Han Qian took out a cigarette. Anan quickly took out a lighter and lit it. He took a deep breath of the cigarette and Han Qian said calmly. You don't have to be too humble when working in these two families. The only ones I can get in touch with in the capital are the Lu family and the Luo family. I will give you 2 years. I think you have succeeded. I will open a room for you to wait for me. Fortunately for you, if I fail, I will lose any interest in your body. I prefer nurturing to men and women. Of course. You can betray me at any time, provided you can bear the consequences. Anan lowered his head and said nothing. Then Han Qian said again. You don't have any advantage among the girls around me. The only thing I value about you is your restraint and ruthlessness towards yourself. Luo Yan is very ambitious. You can use him as a stepping stone for you. When the time comes, kick it away. If one day you can become a strong woman who wants to be as warm as Yan Qingqing, you can also kick me away. All your efforts are for yourself, and I don't want the money you make. As for the ending, just follow your conscience. No more scares today. Han Qian walked down the steps. After taking 2 steps, he turned around and ran to Anan, gritting his teeth and saying angrily. You can only wear black stockings in front of me from now on. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 694. When she said she wanted to go to sea, she went to sea. When Nuan couldn't wait for even a day. In her words, crabs in Beijing were too expensive and not fat. She wanted to go back to Binhai to eat crabs. As a result, everyone drove back to Binhai that night. This time it was Han Qian who drove the car. Yan Qingqing hugged Nuan's neck and scolded her for being too willful. When Nuan didn't resist, and finally just lay in Yan Qingqing's arms, stretching out a finger to poke her chest. There is definitely something going on between them. This is something that happened to Han Qian a long time ago. Since the Chinese New Year, when Nuan's attitude towards Yan Qingqing has changed a lot. Although there were quarrels, there was no hatred in it, and she did not stand in the way between Han Qian and Yan Qingqing. Touch. It's been a long time since I've spoken about leaving Glory. What agreement did the two of them have? It was already dark when we got home, and Xiao Baibei was sent home. Yang Lan entertained several people warmly, but Han Qian said something inappropriate. Sister Yang, please clean up the house when you have nothing to do. As soon as the words came out, Han Qian was led by Yang Lan and thrown out by his collar. Walking into the house, Han Qian pushed open the door to the second bedroom and looked at the tatami that had been installed. He had the urge to cry. Came back. Finally back, I can finally sleep alone. I was too lazy to take a shower, so I found out the quilt and spread it on the tatami bed. After getting into the quilt, I felt so comfortable. Han Qian likes a harder bed. The warm bed is too soft. I didn't sleep well last night and I was tired. One day, Han Qian fell asleep early. He had a very strange dream. In the dream, Nuan and Yan Qingqing got married. The two of them were very close and loving, thanking the guests for their blessings, while he was dropped in the middle of the hall, and nursery rhyme was whipping him with a whip. To cheer everyone up. Han Qian was frightened and woke up. The moment he opened his eyes, he felt someone was hugging him. He took a deep breath. It seemed that when Nuan was not obsessed with where the bed was, but where he was. He stretched out his hand and grabbed his wrist. Han Qian was startled. Not warm. Warm's wrist was fleshy and soft, and now the wrist in his hand was very slender. Han Qian stood up hurriedly, and was stunned when he saw the blonde hair scattered on the pillow. You poetry? When did she come? How can you sleep here? Han Qian hurriedly got out of bed and went out. He opened the door of the master bedroom and saw Nuan and Yan Qingqing. He went downstairs and opened the door of the second bedroom. There was a nursery rhyme inside. Han Qian just breathed a sigh of relief and was about to close the door when the nursery rhyme started to speak. Did you Shisai come to find you again? Han Qian turned around and walked into the room and said softly. You're right. Now you go to sleep on the second floor and we change places to avoid another war tomorrow morning. Don't go. Tong Yao's answer was firm. Han Qian walked to the bedside and patted Tong Monster's shoulder gently. Obey. If you don't go, I'll go to bed. Tong Yao didn't speak, and Han Qian lost his temper. He went to bed and lay next to Tong Yao. He didn't believe that Tong Yao could insist on sleeping with him. He miscalculated. Tong Yao seemed to have no feeling, completely treating Han Qian as air, and remained motionless. Han Qian stretched out his finger and poked Tong Yao's back and said softly. Are you going? Don't go. Then I'll get under the covers. Tong Yao stopped talking again. Han Qian opened the quilt and got into bed. Then Tong Yao turned over and sat on Han Qian's body. Han Qian was stunned. Tong Yao kissed him the next second. Smells full of alcohol. Push away the nursery rhymes. Under the weak light, Han Qian could see Tong Yao's drunken expression. He was a little panicked, but deep down in his heart, there was still a trace of expectation, because now the child monster was honest and could see clearly bit by bit. Han Qian said tremblingly. "What are you doing? How much have you drunk?" Tong Yao's hands jerkily unbuttoned Han Qian's pajamas. "It's up to you to take care of it. Don't blame me if you brought it to your door yourself." Just when Han Qian thought he was about to be lucky, the movements in Tong Yao's hands suddenly stopped, and she lay motionless on Han Qian's body. Listening to her even breathing, Han Qian despaired. The child monster is asleep. Now that she is so exhausted, she falls asleep. He waved his hand and slapped her on the butt, but the girl didn't react at all. When he got out of bed and looked at the sleeping nursery rhyme, Han Qian really wanted to catch her and beat her up. "In total, you stayed up most of the night just staring at you, Shisai." After walking out of the room and turning on the light in the living room, Han Qian looked at the socks and clothes thrown on the floor. He didn't know how much wine these girls drank at Yang Ian's house. When he walked into the bathroom, he shuddered as the cold water fell on his body. Waiting when Han Qian walked out of the bathroom, he crossed his arms and cursed softly with trembling lips. "Anyone who scolds me is a lie. You can't take a cold bath in autumn." He went back to the second floor to find a blanket and returned to the first floor again. He lay on the sofa and closed his eyes, but the nursery rhyme still kept appearing in his mind. Han Qian looked at the door of the guest room, and then at the bathroom door. "Grit your teeth and stamp your feet." Han Qian walked into the bathroom again. When he came out, he was not feeling well. He lay on the sofa and quickly fell asleep. This time, the dream changed, sometimes big and sometimes small, suddenly calm, suddenly violent. After 2 cold baths and insufficient rest, Han Qian fell ill. He didn't know how he got back to the room. Anyway, the trip to sea was delayed. Nuan sat cross-legged next to Han Qian, dragging his chin with one hand and saying suspiciously, "It's weird for you to take a shower in the middle of the night?" "Brother Qian." Yan Qingqing, who was sitting opposite Wen Nuan, asked softly, "Is it possible that you didn't manage to do it yourself and got it on your hands?" "Oops. After all, I have read countless films, Han Qian, let me teach you." As soon as she finished speaking, Yan Qingqing put her hand into the quilt, and then received a warm slap on her forehead. "Stop making trouble. He is so sick. It's also Shisai's fault. He went to the wrong room in the middle of the night, causing Han Qian to go to the living room to sleep." Yan Qingqing curled her lips and said, "Do you think you really ran into the wrong place accidentally?" Wen Nuan chuckled. "The process is not important, the result is important." After saying this, he bent down and pinched Han Qian's cheek, saying softly, "My brother Qian, why are you sick? You weak young man, what the hell?" As soon as they said they would kiss, Yan Qingqing was so angry that she kissed Han Qian on the face. Then the two women grabbed each other's hair and started fighting on the tatami. They were not in a hurry. In the end, Yan Qingqing pinned Han Wenwen to her body. Next, slap him on the buttocks one after another. Tanjio, who walked into the room with porridge, glared at the two of them, put down his wrinkles, took out the medicine, and helped Han Qian sit up. At this time, Han Qian was confused and drank the medicine obediently, but he didn't take a bite of the porridge. "Hey! Yang Lan is so good at drinking. I don't even remember how I came back last night." "Okay. You two, stop making trouble. Shi is downstairs blaming himself now." Nuan raised his head and frowned. "Why should I blame myself? Isn't it just that I went to the wrong room? It's good that he is sick, so that he won't have to worry about everything all day long. I will also take the opportunity to rest for a few more days. You all go about your business." I will take care of you. Just Han Qian will be fine. You. It's good if you can take care of yourself. A fool who can't take care of himself has to take care of others. Now that my company's work has started, I have nothing to do. You can go and do your work. I will take care of Han Qian. Yan Qingqing's face was full of confidence, and then Tanjio asked if the two of them knew how to cook. Nuan was quiet, but Yan Qingqing said what to eat. Take glucose and you won't be hungry. When Nuan and Tongyao looked at Yan Qingqing at the same time, and the next second she was dragged out of the room by the two girls. And threatened that she might be the biggest stumbling block in Han Qian's life. Han Qian was confused. He didn't know what the girls were talking about. His hands and feet were weak and he was top-heavy. Tanjio had been taking care of Han Qian in the room, drinking water, taking medicine, and taking his temperature. He never left. As for Nuan and Yan Qingqing, they had already gone out. Because Niu Ziahua called Han Qian and said she had something to do with Han Qian. The call was answered by Nuan. She made an appointment and took Yan Qingqing out. Yan Qingqing geared up, Nuan drove and said calmly. It's not like she has fought in the past. Can you guess what she is going to do? No need to guess. I'm too lazy to guess. If I don't want to guess, just give me a slap in the face. Yan Qingqing's methods are always so violent. I met Niu Ziahua in the coffee shop. She was no longer a civil servant. She also changed her dress. She put on earrings and put on smoky makeup. It's a pity that a little fox like her is already Sudagitian like Yan Qingqing. There is really not enough to see in front of the fox. And towards Niu Qiudong, they had already become hostile and had no reason to respect each other. Niu Ziahua sat opposite the two of them and asked with a frown. Can you represent Han Qian? Nuan said calmly while drinking coffee. Then tell me what it depends on. I'll listen. I want Han Qian not to pursue what happened that night. Yan Qingqing narrowed her eyes and smiled. What can you give in exchange? Or what do you think we lack? You may not have as much money as I do. If you have power, we can't use it. The woman Han Qian likes you, what can you offer in exchange? Niu Ziahua took out the cigarette and lit it, and said calmly. Nothing. He gave up the pursuit. I went back to work at the Yamen gate. I can make his road in the city smoother. Ah. Nuan smiled and said disdainfully. Do you think your dad is great? Who is he in my eyes? Don't worry, we will get to the bottom of it. Han Qian didn't like us interfering in his affairs before, but now you have come to his door yourself. Niu Ziahua, I know you like Lin Zongheng, but unfortunately, he dislikes you for being ugly. After saying this, Wen got up and left. Niu Ziahua stared at Wen's back, took a long puff of cigarette, and flicked the ash into the coffee quilt. At this time, Yan Qingqing stood up, grabbed Niu Ziahua's wrist, and slammed it on the table, angrily wrote. You are lucky that you have a good father, otherwise I would have beaten you up today and your mother wouldn't even recognize you. Threatening Han Qian? I beg you to be serious. Not only are you ugly, you are also stupid. Yan Qingqing picked up the cigarette butt and threw it at Niu Ziahua's face, regardless of whether the sparks in the cigarette butt had been extinguished. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 695. Niu Ziahua used to think that no one respected her because she was low-key, but now that she is high-profile, no one takes her seriously. Niu Qiudong is not afraid of Cheng Jin. What he is afraid of is Cai King Hu, who is treated like a daughter by Cheng Jin. After working with Cheng Jin for so many years, Niu Qiudong can't guarantee that Cheng Jin doesn't know anything. Niu Ziahua took out her mobile phone and called Niu Qiudong to complain. She wanted Niu Qiudong to arrest Han Qian. Why didn't Niu Qiudong want to do this? If he could catch him, he would have thrown Han Qian in long ago, but if he threw Han Qian in, wouldn't it just suit Chang Jin's wishes? Niu Qiudong comforted softly. Don't provoke Han Qian these days. He is just a prickly hedgehog now. When Feng Lun is caught, his good days will come to an end. Niu Ziahua didn't understand and growled. Why are you afraid of this little beast? He is the one who caused Binhai City into such a mess. Dad, why are you afraid of him? Niu Qiudong hung up the phone. He couldn't explain to his daughter, and he couldn't do what her daughter asked him to do. He was glad that Go Depeo died and Wei Tiancheng went abroad, otherwise it would be unclear who had the problem now. Lin Mend also had a headache. In the past, he was the only one who plotted against others, but now he knows that someone is plotting against him but has no clue. Now that when she suddenly came out to take charge of the Chang Rong group, his appearance made those who had given up hope long ago rekindle their hopes, as if they had seen the light of day again, and they all jumped to Chang Rong. Lin Mend understands that the size of the company no longer affects their income. Since they can change jobs, Wen Shu can give them what they want. It is inevitable that the members will leave with Wen Shu. What gives Mr. Lin a headache is that there is a mysterious person. The chaebols are acquiring the shares that Chang Xiang is selling, no matter how much, they are taking them all. 10% of Zhang Xian's shares have been sold to this mysterious chaebol. What is their use in acquiring these shares? Now that Chang Xiang is his absolute controlling shareholder, what is the purpose of this chaebol? Is it Han Qian? Not like that. Although Cai Qinghu is very wealthy and has the ability to acquire these shares, she will not do so. The Wen family has no intention of doing so now. Luo Shen? She, the Luo family, has no reason to acquire these shares that cannot have a say in the company. Lin Mend couldn't figure it out, so he called his secretary to investigate some of Cai Qinghu's accounts to see if there had been any large transactions, and then tried to find a way to contact the person who purchased the shares secretly to check his details. The secretary nodded in agreement and quickly left the office. There are a lot of rumors circulating in Changxiang. Lin Mend must put these rumors to rest as soon as possible. After the secretary left, Lin Mend called Lin Zongheng. Zongheng, what is this little beast Han Qian doing recently? Lin Zongheng sat on the sofa and ate an orange and mumbled. I went to the capital for 2 days, and now I'm lying down at home. Just now Niu Ziahua called me and said that Han Qian's call was answered by Nuan. According to Tang Wei, Han Qian is going to go out to sea. Lin Mend was so angry that his face was livid. He was so busy, this little beast could only think about playing. At the same time, he also dispelled his doubts about Han Qian. After all, he was a young man. If he were Han Qian, he would never give the enemy any chance to breathe. Lin Mend took out his cigar and said calmly. You have become more stable recently. Have you found a place where you can get money? As long as the interest is about the same, you can first use the money to invest in a few short-term projects to plug the holes in the company. I've been paying attention recently. If nothing happens, I'll leave first. Lin Mend waved his hand, indicating that Lin Zongheng could leave. Lin Zongheng's face turned gloomy when he left the door. He was wondering whether Han Qian would have any accident at sea. When Nuan and Yan Qingqing returned home with the vegetables. Looking at the man lying on the sofa making a phone call, Wen Nuan sighed weakly. Hey! Why don't you tire yourself out? Wouldn't the earth stop spinning without you? Han Qian opened his eyes and took a look at Nuan, then whispered into the phone. Do as I say, and you may get unexpected rewards. After saying that, he hung up the phone, lay on the sofa and covered his head and began to hum. Nuan closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He walked to the sofa and sat down. He picked up Han Qian's head and put it on his lap and kneaded it gently, with gentle movements on his hands. The words coming out of his mouth were like knives. You deserve to have a headache. What are you talking about that we can't wait until you get better? It's a race against time. Are you and the Lord of Hell competing for time? Or will black and white take you away? Han Qian opened his eyelids as heavy as 1,000 pounds and said helplessly. You hope I won't die, don't you? Are you going to remarry or what? Wen Nuan reached out and pinched Han Qian's lips and said seriously. It's not that I hope you don't die, it's that you always feel that your life has been too long. If you don't want to live, I will take you out to sea tomorrow. Han Qian shifted his gaze, stretched out his hand to Yan Qingqing, and said aggrievedly. Mr. Yan. I have no milk. Nuan is right. I'm curious who you called just now, Ji Zheng? Cai Qinghu or Yates, what are you busy with recently? Han Qian closed his eyes and whispered. I go to sleep. Snapped. Nuan slapped Han Qian on the back of his hand. Han Qian quickly retracted his hand. Just as he was about to fall asleep, a sudden coldness came from his armpit. Tong Yao was taking his temperature. Looking at the 38 degrees on the thermometer, Tong Yao frowned slightly. It's hopeless. Just bury him. Han Qian opened his eyes and saw that there was no one on either side. Then he gritted his teeth and glared at Tong Yao and said fiercely. If you hadn't been drunk last night, would I have had a fever? Nursery Rhyme stared with big eyes, her face full of innocence. You crazy dog, don't bite anyone. I'm also on the first floor when I'm drunk. What does it have to do with you on the second floor? Are you sick? Holy shit, you don't remember what you did last night. After finishing her words, Tong Yao turned around and shouted to the warmth teasing the crab in front of the refrigerator. Nuan, what did I do last night? After saying this, Han Qian quickly closed his eyes and said fiercely. Child monster, I'm going to be so humming cruel to you. You are scolding me. Do you believe I will slap you? Do not believe. Snapped. A soft, crisp slap fell on Han Qian's face. The slap was not heavy, but it stunned Han Qian. Then the guy sat up and grabbed Tong Yao's collar and raised his hand. Snapped. Another small slap fell on the face. Han Qian was so angry that his face turned pale. He grabbed Tong Yao's shoulders with both hands and shook them hard, saying angrily. Did you know that you can hit any part of a man's body, except two places? I'm warning you, Nursery Rhyme, my face is used to earn face, not for you to slap. Nursery Rhyme shook her body and said calmly. My breasts are for breastfeeding, why don't you touch them less? Plop. Han Qian lay on the sofa without saying a word and argued with the Chinese teacher. He was looking for death. Wen Nuan looked at the two of them with a confused look and asked in confusion. What are you two doing? Why are you fighting? Tong Yao pointed at Han Qian and said seriously. He berated me. Yan Qingqing walked down the second floor and said helplessly. You two, stop arguing. Check how Han Qian's health is. If it doesn't work, send him to the hospital for acupuncture. Alas. There's no place for acupuncture on the back of his hand. It's full of pinholes. Nuan, please call and ask. Father-in-law, is there Han Qian's coffin? If so, I'll have someone drive it over. Oh. Nursery Rhymes, I want to eat crabs. Miss, can you wait a moment? It's only 3 o'clock. Shisai went to buy medicine. I'll see if I'm going to cook or prepare a banquet tonight. Han Qian was about to be pissed to death, but now he had no energy at all and was too lazy to argue with a few girls. When the disease is cured, no one can escape. A terrible headache. I don't know how long it took, but I was swallowed a bottle of medicine by Nursery Rhymes and Use Poetry. According to Use Poetry, it was a decoction bought from an old Chinese doctor. It has the effect of curing diseases. Then the four of them squatted on the edge of the sofa and looked at Han Qian. Nuan held a crab in his hand and ate it. Han Qian didn't feel any better after drinking the medicine, but he just felt sleepier. It was already late at night when Han Qian woke up again. Looking at the monster squatting on the floor tiles and sleeping on the sofa, Han Qian reached out and touched her hair. Nursery Rhyme slowly opened his eyes, like a puppet. He also took the thermometer on the table and stuffed it into Han Qian's armpit. Looking at the 37 degrees on the thermometer, Tong Yao turned around and returned to the guest room, closed the door and went to bed without saying a word to Han Qian. She was really sleepy. Han Qian took out his phone and took a look. It's 4 o'clock. He slept for 12 hours, and after Nursery Rhyme finished cooking, he stayed by Han Qian's side until his body temperature dropped. Early in the morning, 3 women checked Han Qian's body. After confirming that he was recovered, Nuan called Cai King Hu. Go to see, go to see, go to see.